Hey everybody, it's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning The Dr. Vibe Show. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And you're at the Dr. Vibe Show, the place for epic conversations, and I am the host of Epic Conversations. And as always, we're really jacked when we get new friends on the show. And we have a new friend, Michelle Moras, on our conversation today, and we are really happy to have her. So let me give you a little bit of background about Michelle. She is an accomplished inspirational keynote speaker, success coach, and author of Eat, Drink, and Be Merry, A Glimpse into a Life Well Lived, which is available online at Amazon and Barnes & Noble. She captures the attention of audience with her vivacity. I don't know how to pronounce the word. Personal antidotes and genuine love of serving others. Her clients are guided to find their own strengths by discovering their why, saving time, resources, and increasing productivity both personally and professionally. Most importantly, they learn the power to overcome obstacles, redirecting their perspective. So we are very blessed and highly favored to have Michelle with us today. Good morning, Michelle. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fabulous.
Good morning. Fabulous.
Excellent. Very nice to have you on the conversation. We like to say a shout out. There's at least 3 other people that are watching this. So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us. And if you have any questions for Michelle, just type them in, or you want to just type words of encouragement, type them in. So Michelle, thanks for making the time to share with us today. Can you share a little bit about your background with us?
A little bit of my background. How far do you want to go? I'm a military brat, which means my father's military, and I've traveled the world. I married a military man and traveled more of the world. And basically, I'm a free spirit that tends to always see the bright side of things.
Excellent. Now, let's go back a little bit. What was life growing up in the military, a military family?
Well, when it's all you know, it's life. But when you grow up and you realize that not everybody else moved every 2 to 4 years, then you realize, wow, what a different kind of life. But being a military child and spouse and moving and seeing the world, what's nice about it is I got to see people in their own element and to respect and honor other people's traditions and lives and the way they do things. So whenever I look at any situation, I take that knowledge from my past and, okay, are they doing it out of this or that, or where are they from in the world? It weighs a lot on my mind on how I interact with other people. It made me broader.
Nice. What, if you don't mind, what did your mother do in all these cycles growing up? How was your mother? Obviously, your father was military. What did your mother do having to be in different environments or this time?
Well, my mom is a tough lady. She was a telephone operator in the Philippines when I was younger, and so she was like operator 6, I believe. But she has the same kind of personality that I do. We're very versatile. We're very flexible and loving to other people. So my mother, well, we had 6 kids, so she was kind of busy on her own.
Wow. 6 kids.
Yeah, and we range. I mean, we range from quite a big distance. So like, I consider myself the middle child. But I have a sister who's 6 years older, a brother who's 7 years older, and an older brother who's 8 years older than me. Then there's a 10-year gap, and the twins came along. My mom was
So what things have you learned, or did you learn growing up in a family of 6 kids, father's in the military, mother's a telephone operator? What sort of lessons or what sort of guides did you from your parents? Because obviously they must have been doing something right to do it good.
Do we have 3 hours to talk? what I've learned from being raised in a large family like that, in a military family, I learned respect for other people, respect for their time and their energy. And being the baby for the longest time, and then being the middle child, and then being the oldest sister, I had all three aspects. I learned how to navigate with different types of people. I mean, you've got to think, my oldest brother is 8 years older than me. My youngest brother and sister are 10 years younger than me. There are two other generations on us, basically. And so we learned how to interact with each other better. I mean, and here's the other thing. My mother is the eldest of 14 children.
What?
We lived in the Philippines.
No, you know what? I am familiar with Filipino background and heritage. I'm blessed to have a number of very close Filipino friends, so I get it.
Well, the thing is my mother and my grandmother are having children at the same time. So my uncles are maybe 5 to 6 years older than me. And so our family is very close, very tight. And not only do we have a generational or age kind of difference that we all blended, but we also had cultural things that we also blended. So being raised in a family like I did, I've become more, I guess you can say, tolerant to a lot of things. I never approach anything as someone saying something because they're mad at me or they don't like me or whatever. My first impression is they're coming from a place of love and this is how they care. And then I reevaluate it. Because you have different cultures and different age groups messing around, and you've got people saying, don't do that. Well, your first impression is, they don't like me, they're mad at me. It's no, don't do that. Simple.
Wow. So I really am fascinated how you had to handle different child ages, like from being eldest to like, how did you manage being like in changing roles growing up as a young person in your family?
It's all I knew. It is what it is. When I was the baby of the family, I was spoiled rotten. Yes, they called me a brat. They still call me a brat because I was the baby for so long. And I appreciate being the one that everyone took care of and carried around. But then when the twins came along, I actually got responsibilities, which was very strange for a child that got to run and play while everyone else had chores. And as the middle child, I became the mediator between the oldest and the ones closer to me. I learned a lot of mediation being in the middle. And then when the older brothers moved away, so let's say by the time the twins came along, I was 10, which means my sister was 16, the next one was 17, the next one was 18. The 18 and 17-year-old moved away. So then it was just me and my older sister, and then the twins. And then soon my older sister moved. So then I became the eldest. And when I became the eldest, the three who used to have the chores, it fell on me because I was now the only oldest. You see? And there's a hierarchy in all Filipino families. And although my father is an American, we were run like a military and Filipino family. Being the eldest, I had great examples. So I already knew what to do. I did what they did. And I'm quite sure if you ask the twins below me, they think I came out pretty good. I wasn't a horrible big sister.
Okay. How did your parents meet?
Oh my goodness gracious. Let's see if I can get this right. My mom was a secretary at, I believe, the flight line at Clark Air Base, Philippines, and like an admin assistant. And my father was an airman that would come in and out, and he kept leaving her flowers. She had no idea it was him. But one day she missed the bus to get to the base, to get off base, and it was raining. And so my father came and offered her a ride to the base, off the base. So they met at work in passing.
Wow.
Not very exciting.
So, no, hey, it's part of your heritage and it's important. Let me ask then, when did you start branching out on your own? Because you're with 6 kids, when did you start getting independence, branching out on your own? How did that process start and what did that look like?
How did I become independent as one of 6 children? Here's the secret.
Yes.
When you have 3 older siblings who did everything, you watch them get in trouble and you learned not to do what they did. So by the time the 6-year gap happened and I got old enough to get into trouble, my parents were so tired of catching the other 3 that they never noticed me.
Wow,
they would just
that's
to my older brothers and sisters to take care of me. Well, make sure Michelle's not in trouble. Okay, we've got her. And that was it. My independence happened very quickly.
Nice. Right. So growing like in your younger youth days, like teenager, young adult, did you do any educational studies?
Educational studies beyond high school?
Yes.
No.
Wow. Excellent.
Beyond just
So, yeah.
Well, you have to understand, I lived in the Philippines in the 70s, okay? Living in the Philippines during Marcos's regime is, yeah, that is lesson in itself. Like Margaret just said, your life is an education. I lived through a president who turned into a dictator. I watched martial law. So I saw real life happen full force and fast. Riots, killing in the streets. Wow, yes. My education came from around me, watching people in real poverty in the Philippines with dirt floors and sharing one bowl of rice among 3 generations of families living under one tin roof. I mean, I watched people with sheer poverty and then watched people with absolute opulence. So I've seen the gambit, and I hadn't even turned 9 years old yet.
Wow.
I have a lot of life experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How did you shout out to Bob Kittredge. Welcome, Bob. Thank you so much for supporting. You got a fan club there going. You got a great fan club. Thanks everyone for stopping by. And again, if you want to say hello to Michelle, just tell me in the comment section. We can certainly invite you and give her a big shout out. I'm just continuing on with some of her story. So how did you get from the Philippines to America?
It happened twice. When
Whoa.
I want to believe it was, I want to say 1973. Yeah. In 1973, when Marcos became, he declared, September 73, Marcos declared martial law. We were living off base at the time and things were getting really dangerous. And so my father moved us on base. Well, we lived on base for about a year and then he decided, we need to move you back to the States. So he moved us to the United States for about maybe 2 years. We lived with his mother in the 9th Ward of New Orleans, Louisiana. And after that time period, we moved back to the Philippines. So I saw a brief glimpse of America, came back to the Philippines until I was about 15, and then we moved to America permanently. My father was looking to retire. We went to Omaha, Nebraska. So big difference in the Philippines.
Wow. So how was life growing up in Omaha, Nebraska, coming from the Philippines?
In America?
Yes.
Culture shock. I mean, in the Philippines, no joke, we were, in our high school alone, the rule was you must be wearing something on your feet. That was the rule. That was the dress code. So to come to America where, you know, you actually had vending machines that you pushed the button and it thought about it and dropped whatever food you wanted. You didn't have, let me go backwards. In the Philippines, we still had telephone operators, like from the 1960s, where you would pick up the phone and say, "Hello, operator, I'd like to talk to Mr. Joe, you know, Smith." "One moment, Michelle, let me connect you to Joe Smith." That's what we had in the Philippines. So to move to America where you could pick up a phone and there wasn't a party line on it, someone else, you would just dial. That alone was shocking. The immense size of America was overwhelming. You have to remember, I grew up on an island where you could probably walk from one end to the other in a couple of hours. We came to America and we moved to Omaha, Nebraska, okay? When I was old enough to wander on my own. I think just the base alone was the size of the island. I mean, I could never find the other end of it. So just the enormity of America was my biggest shock, and how busy everything was, how things kept moving, and that things didn't turn off and stores didn't close. It was a shock, but it was fun. It was different. And to me, different's always good.
Right. I understand that. Definitely understand that. Sharing with you even before we came live, that's something you live on, one of the life principles for your own life. So those years in Omaha, obviously culture shock, learning. Where did you go from Omaha? What was your next destination from Omaha?
Well, I graduated from college in Omaha. So the next time I moved was when my husband proposed to me. And actually, that story is in this book.
Hold on. I want to hear that. Okay, there you go. So we don't want to give away the book, but how did he propose to you? And how did you two initially meet?
We were in high school. I was a sophomore. He was a junior. I was waiting for cross-country practice to start, so I was sitting on the picnic tables under this huge canopy of trees after school. It was the second day of school. And I saw this boy walking across the yard towards the tables I was sitting on. He was wearing white shorts to his knees, tube socks up to his knees. He had a pinstripe collared shirt and a members only jacket on. Okay, he had like a military cut. And the reason it's so clear to me is in the Philippines, I told you, our dress code was you must wear something on your feet. Most of us were wearing flip-flops and cut-off shorts and, you know, t-shirts or bathing suit tops. I mean, we wore whatever we wanted to. This guy was decked out and he had a jacket on. It's 120 degrees in the Philippines with 100% humidity. So the first time I saw him was him walking across the field towards where I was. And I remember thinking, this guy is different. And like with me, different is good. So yes, we met in high school. I avoided him for many, 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 many moons, but we met in high school.
That's fantastic. Great. So after college, what was your next step in your journey?
After college, well, Michael took me away before I graduated. He came to Omaha, asked my hand in marriage. Yeah, I left college because of Michael. My junior year, I dropped out and I moved to, I moved to Tacoma, Washington to be with him. You have to think, in high school, I thought it was puppy love. I mean, I loved him. I told my girlfriend back then, I'm going to marry that boy one day, you know? And so everyone laughed at me. But here it was 9 years later, and he came back. He saw me. He came and got me in the got me in Omaha, asked me to marry him, and said, "Move back to Tacoma with me." Tacoma, Washington.
Wow.
So I got in a car and we drove to Tacoma, Washington. And now here's the reasoning. I can't marry a man. I was ordered by my friends and my mother. You can't marry a man that you haven't been around for 9 years. 9 years is a long time. Someone can be anything they want in a letter or, on a phone call. So you need to go be with him, with his friends, and see how he acts around his friends. So I moved to Tacoma, got an apartment, got a job, and stayed there for a year getting to know him and his friends. And at the end of the year, if I still loved him, we would get married, and we did.
Wow, thank you. What an interesting story. My goodness. What, did your parents like him initially?
Oh, no. My father, no. We weren't allowed to date until we were 18. I met Michael when I was 15. And so when Michael invited me to junior prom and I went, my father met him, or tried to meet him at the door with a gun.
What?
Yes, we were not allowed to date. My dad's a soldier, okay? And so, yeah, that was a very interesting night. I remember getting to the door doing, Michael, just wait your car. I'll meet you out there. Don't come to the house. But when we got married, my father said, that is one very good man. Very good man. My mom has always liked him. My mom liked him the day the first moment she ever met him. My dad, nice. We had to prove.
Really? Isn't it the way?
Yes.
So life in Tacoma, another transition for you. What was your life like there, and how did you adjust?
I absolutely loved life in Tacoma. Michael had a great group of friends. He had 2 roommates that were just, they were almost a comedy crew to me. We're still friends with them. What's really cool about it is they always reminded me of the Seinfeld episodes. You know, Seinfeld, where they were all kind of quirky in a different way. So I loved Tacoma. That was a big experience for me. It was the first time I'd ever been away from my family. I mean, I've always been able to just get back home. I mean, Filipinos are very tight family-wise. And this was the first time I ever left and couldn't just run back home. It was fun. We did a lot of exploring, and we got to see Seattle a lot and Vancouver, and wow, I loved Washington State. I learned how to ski when I was in Washington. I mean, it was just great.
So why did you have to leave Washington, and was it hard to leave Washington?
We had to leave Washington because Michael joined the military. He joined the
okay.
Yeah, he joined the Air Force. And so when I went to move with him, he was only there another 2 years, and they moved him to South Korea, Osan Air Base, South Korea. Yeah. So we got married, and 6 months later he moved to Korea, and that was different. So I went back to school because he was gone, and I finished my degree.
A 2-part question here. First of all, how was it being away from him all that time, and how was it being away from your family? Because obviously family is your foundation, and now you're not close to them, you're close to him during this period of time.
No. Well, being away from Michael was okay, because you have to remember our entire relationship was long distance. So when I left the Philippines at 15, I didn't physically see him again really till I was 21, 22. I think I saw him for 2 days when I was a senior, my junior year of college, but we really never saw each other. So having him deploy for a year didn't affect me as much because we're used to the long distance relationship. Being apart from my sisters, my mom, particularly my older sister, that was really hard because Yvette's my older sister, and I've always gone to her for advice. She's always been there for me. And so it was really strange to not have her right there. Thank goodness for technology, because telephones are awesome. That's how I kept in touch. I was a calling fool. I was always calling.
Oh, that's
And then,
so sweet.
and then Michael hooked me with two friends that he trusted very well, and they were always with me.
Nice. One of the many interesting things, you've already dropped so many interesting things that's part of your journey, was a political campaign manager. How did that come journey?
I fell into it. I worked for a group called Sure Success Benefit Auctioneers. And so I was one of the auctioneer people. I arranged their nonprofit fundraising things. And so I was working with their benefit auction section. And one day someone asked me, can we do this stuff for political, raising money for politics, for campaigning? And I'm like, well, I don't know. And then the next thing I know, someone said, wow, you're really good at that. You should join this thing called Leadership Program of the Rockies. And I'm like, what's that? And they said, oh, you should join it. So I auditioned for it. It's school. Anything that comes with school, I do it. I love school. I love to learn. I love to grow. And so I applied for this Leadership Program of the Rockies. And that's what catapulted this whole political stuff, because my husband likes to call it political charm school. But what it was is we learned the foundations of America, the documents, everything. We went deep into how America was built and why. Wow. That's how I got into it. I accidentally fell into it.
I just want to sidelight, take a little detour for a second. You mentioned you always love knowledge. Where did your love of knowledge come from? Your desire to know more?
My father. My father is a very educated man, and all I can ever remember of him as a child, he would come home from work and we'd have dinner, but then I would sit next to him in bed as he was reading these huge manuals. He was always testing for a new pay grade, basically, the next rank, and he was always reading. And so I was always sitting there reading with him, technical manuals. And then he ended up getting his master's and another master's. And I remember him studying to get his doctorate. And I just was consumed with the fact that he was always looking for knowledge, because I was always looking for knowledge. I got it from him. Reading tech books is from my father. Reading pleasure books was from my mom. She read the fun books. So I would read a tech book and then two fun books, a tech book and then two fun books. I've done it all my life. One of the things my mother did to me growing up was I was bored. I used to go to the library every day and check out 5 books. I could read a book every 30 minutes. I was really fast. And my mom said, okay, Michelle, why don't you just pick up the Encyclopedia Britannica, start with A, and keep reading till you can't read anymore. And so I did. I love knowledge. I'm a nerd.
Where did No, you're cool. Where did the desire to become a Toastmaster come from?
I fell into that. I did not know what a Toastmaster was. I was in something called American Society for Quality, and because my master's is in quality systems management. And I was in this group and I was giving some sort of presentation at one day, and a man came up to me afterwards and he said, you should join Toastmasters. I said, what is that? He goes, well, we get together and we talk. And I'm like, why do I need to go anywhere where a whole bunch of old men sit around and talk with toast? I don't get this. Why do you want me there? I mean, I was confused. And then I went to another thing and another man came up to me. He says, you really should join Toastmasters. You are really good. And I'm like, I don't know what this Toastmasters is. And by the time I got the courage to go to Toastmasters, the guys who both invited me were no longer Toastmasters. They had moved. So I got addicted to Toastmasters because I like to talk to large groups, but one-on-one scared me out of my mind. I mean, I couldn't make it through interviews without, shaking, physically shaking. And wow, I fell in love with Toastmasters because it helped me find a piece of me that I didn't even realize was broken. I helped me find my voice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I can relate to that because I went into Toastmasters many years ago, and it's been one of the key things I've taken during my journey, so I can fully relate on how important it is. Here's a question from Margaret saying, just curious, what topics are your favorite to speak on?
Oh, Margaret, that's a hard question. It depends on the group. But I love talking about anything that will open a group up. So I believe my gift in this world is to help people find their gift. And so I like to talk to encourage people and lift them up so that they can be the best, unique them that they are, that they're destined to be. I mean, honestly, I found that through Toastmasters, because in Toastmasters, I would avoid certain subjects because, ooh, that was uncomfortable. Ooh, well, I didn't know how people would take that. But in Toastmasters, they kind of pushed you to do more and to do different kinds of stories. And I was able to discover that the stories I like to tell were, one, incredibly entertaining and fun. I love to see people laugh. But in the laughter, I like to make sure that there's a lesson to be learned. I like to bring joy and knowledge at the same time.
Wonderful.
So to answer Margaret's question short, I like to bring joy to people. I like to help them find it in themselves.
There you go. So obviously, and how did it feel become distinguished Toastmaster? Like, that's rare air, a distinguished international toast. How did that happen?
That was awesome. It was a lot of work. Not a lot of people do it, but see, here's something you need to know about my personality. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to be the most absolute best version of it that I can be, okay? So when I learned about Toastmasters, I joined it thinking I was just gonna do speeches, I'll finish the Competent Communicator Manual, I'll be done. And then someone said, oh, there's another level. Oh, and then there's another level. Oh, and if you really want to do it, there's this DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster level. Well, I immediately set my sights to that. And I made a plan. I'm going to do X many speeches. And I went to there's a vice president of education in Toastmasters. I went to the VP of Ed and said, I want to have these 2 books done by this date. I want to speak this date, this date, this date, this. I mean, I pretty much told them where I wanted to talk. And I made sure I hit that schedule. So I finished getting my DTM in just slightly over 4 years. That's almost unheard of. I think of in this area, only one other person has done it. And it's tough, but it can be done.
How did it feel when you finally accomplished that DTM?
I wanted more. Getting the DTM was amazing because I hit that pinnacle. But then as soon as I hit that pinnacle, I went, now what? I mean, I'm always striving forward. What's after DTM? And I didn't know what to do because I went to, NSA, the National Speakers Association, and they were talking about being a paid speaker for this much, and it was so complicated. I'm like, well, I'm not a professional speaker. I can't do that. That's the old me. When I wanted more, I found a friend, and he told me, why don't you look into the John Maxwell team? There's a speaker lane there that might be right up your alley. And that's what I did. This nice man named Bob told me to check out John Maxwell, and I did. It's been the best decision I've ever made. Next to Toastmasters, John Maxwell was, whoa, amazing.
What did you find out of yourself that you did not know going through the John Maxwell program?
What I learned from the John Maxwell program is I'm much more than I thought I could be. I was limiting myself to my own window of knowledge, basically. I kept myself in the box thinking, this is what I am, I must stay here. With the John Maxwell team, I learned, forget the box. Anything is possible. You set your mind to it, you make a plan for it, and you make it happen. Not, I'm gonna do this in 3 months. Not, next year I'm gonna. Now. Tomorrow is now. That's what I learned from John Maxwell.
You know what? Excellent. And I think Les is part of your fan club. He's saying you cannot find a finer speaker or life coach than this lovely woman. Plus, she's more than a fun circus. That's good stuff. Oh, that's fun. That's great. So let me ask you about, let's get some background on Eat, Drink, and Be Merry, a glimpse into a life well lived. What's the story behind that?
The story behind my book. I like to talk, can you tell? And my mother-in-law, when she passed, they offered people to go up and talk at her viewing. And I couldn't do it. I was completely speechless. And I knew Mary believed in me. And I couldn't do it. I was terrified. And I knew she wanted me to sing at her funeral, and I couldn't. I lost all words when I lost her. And, ooh, I'm gonna tear up. What I decided was I was gonna honor her with everything I wanted to tell her and to share about her. I was gonna put it in a book and give it to the family. So I wrote a book to give to the family. And while I was writing the book, I did a TEDx for Colorado Springs, a TEDx talk for Colorado Springs. And I took a segment of the book and I wanted to share her message with the world. I mean, TEDx, I can get a lot of people to hear her message. She was an educator. I wanted everyone to know what she had taught me. And I wrote the book because it was my honor to her. Everything I couldn't say while she was here.
Thank you for sharing that. And we have something in common because my father was an educator in the same school for 32 years.
Really?
So I know the emotional, I feel the emotions that you're going through right now. So thank you for being so transparent. It's really appreciated. Tell us, how did the TEDx talk come about? Did you reach out to them? Did they reach out to you?
Honestly, a young lady that I met at a Toastmaster meeting, she said she had heard me speak before, and she said, she wrote me on Facebook and said, Michelle, there's this thing called TEDx in Colorado Springs. I think you should audition. And I wrote back, what's a TEDx? And she informed me what it was and said, you need to audition. You're what they're looking for. And so I did. And I was in. I ended up being the final, the Omega speaker that day. Huge honor.
How much preparation? I know a little bit about this. Never been in a TEDx presenter, but can you just share with our audience how much preparation you had to go through to get that to the day you actually did that presentation?
Wow. I'd like to thank all the Toastmasters in District 26 in Colorado. I went from club to club to club trying different versions of this speech. And then when I would see people react at different points, I would combine the good points, so the ups and the downs. And then I would go to another club and try the new style. And then I have a little group of friends that I tend to, they actually listen to almost every speech I've ever done because they're a tight group and they'll give me pure feedback. I mean, they will say, stop, too much, stop, clean that up. And that's the kind of feedback I need. And it was a lot of work. But they, TEDx, they assign you a coach to help you go through your talk, and they make sure you don't go down rabbit holes. TEDx is a very organized group. I mean, they've got your back the whole time. And it's just amazing to have that type of teamwork together where you can go back and say, okay, can I go practice on the stage? Because I need to know what it feels like from the stage. And then, oh yeah, come on over. So-and-so will be there. Do you want to have the mic hooked up so you can hear what you sound like? It's a great organization. I encourage anyone, if you have any inkling to ever want to speak in public, do a TEDx. That will give you some serious growth as a speaker.
So what was the response, and how has the response been after you've done your TEDx talk?
It's been explosive. Explosive. And I'm not joking about that. It reached people around the world. I would get messages on Facebook saying, hello, you don't know me, I saw your TEDx, it was beautiful. I have a lady in town, actually, who wrote me and said, Michelle, I saw your TEDx and I saw one of your practices for the TEDx, but this made me change my life. I quit my job, which scared me. And then she said, I started a coffee shop. It's something I've always wanted to do. And your talk encouraged me to step out of my fear box and do what I wanted to do. Now I'm so happy. She started a coffee shop because my story inspired her. That is the most amazing feeling, that if I could at least help one person find their dream and do it, not just dream it, it makes everything worthwhile. And I still check up on her. She's got a coffee shop called the Buzzed Badger, cracks me up here in the Springs. And I go by and I check on her because she is an embodiment that I've succeeded in what I wanted to do, change at least one life.
That's amazing. And
thanks, Bob.
I really appreciate your friends here, your supporters on the side. I know they're really believe in you. So that's very humbling to have them here sharing with us. I know you do coaching also, correct?
Yes.
How do you manage all of this?
How do you not? Here's the thing. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you can do until you do it. And when I went into all this, I remember being on a John Maxwell call thinking, well, if I'm a speaker, I'm going to have to speak because it takes me a long time to do my speeches. So I can't do any coaching. And one of the trainers from John Maxwell said, how do you know? How do you know? So I took on a client, a coaching client. And when I was doing that, I realized that one coaching client was energizing me to do more. So it's like an energy exchange. And I am more productive helping multiple people. It helps fire and inspire my speeches, my keynotes. So when you ask me, how do you do all that? And still be a mother of two and a wife of a very awesome man. You do what you do because you don't know what you can't. So you do it. That was a tongue twister, wasn't it?
No, it was fine. It was good. Is there any vision to write another book in the near future?
Yes. Yes. I actually have two. One book is a supplement for Eat, Drink, and Be Merry. When this book came out, people were writing me from literally other parts of the world saying, you told us what to do, but how do I do it? And so I started doing little mini short videos on my Facebook page, trying to walk people through how to get out of their ruts or, to achieve what they want, little bits. And I realized, that's not going to reach enough people. So I I'm almost done, with a supplement book on how to break out of your rut, how to break out of that box that keeps you from achieving what you truly want. And then my third book is my life. It's my
Wow.
life. The third book is my life, and how I came from A to B, or A to Z, and how I've survived it. I've had a very interesting life. And my publisher.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
My publisher is Vertex Learning, and the gentleman Alfonso, he talked to me and he said, "Why aren't you writing a book about your life?" He goes, "We've got this book, we'll do this book, but we want your life." And so that's what I'm doing next. Well, third.
Nice.
Yeah.
What advice would you give anyone who would like to become a public speaker?
A what?
What advice would you give anyone who would want to become a public speaker? Because you're very good at it, but and it took you some time. But any suggestions or nuggets you'd like to give people that are interested in becoming a public speaker?
If you want to be a public speaker, speak. Join Toastmasters. Okay. I don't want to be a billboard, but I'm telling you, practice, practice, practice. But here's the thing, practicing and not being fixed, not getting corrected, is just practicing. You want perfect practice. So join Toastmasters, because that is an audience of people who are there to help you grow as a speaker, as a human, as a person, as a friend. I mean, they are there to support you fully. And you practice and practice with Toastmasters, because every time you do a talk, you get an evaluation of what you did well and what you need to improve on. And everything in life requires feedback. Feedback is huge. Now, you don't want feedback where they do, "Oh, you're so good." And you know in your head, "Well, I know I messed that up, and I know I messed that up." You want someone to say, "You did really well, but fix this, this, and this, and do it again." That's what we need to be a public speaker. And then the next thing is not just staying in your club. I say go to every club you could absolutely get to, because different points of view, different people you're not comfortable with, different settings. If the room is shaped in a different way, it changes the way you speak. And then thirdly, speak outside of Toastmasters. Whenever there's anything, if there's a networking meeting, or if there's a church function, if someone needs an MC, perfect practice makes perfect speaking. But perfect speaking is natural. So the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. So although it's practiced in your head, you're having a conversation. Did that help? Did that answer?
Absolutely.
I get a little passionate about that.
No, nothing wrong with encouragement and passionate, because if you're not passionate, why would anyone take you seriously?
That's true. Well, then there's one more thing I have to say then.
Right.
If you truly
Please.
want to be a public speaker, one of the things Paul Martinelli, who's the president of the John Maxwell team, he likes to say, jump and grow wings on the way. So if there's a speaking engagement that seems out of your reach, apply, do it. You don't know what you can do until you do it. You can't envision it and pretend and wish and never do it. Just do it. Sign up, practice well, and do it. You will be a public speaker. You have to force yourself out of your fear box.
Nice. Is there any, and I know you're always setting new goals, what are some of the goals that you haven't achieved yet that I know you're going to achieve?
What goals that I haven't achieved yet? I want a doctorate. I want someone to say, I want you to say one day, you know, Dr. Vibe of the Dr. Vibe Show, I'd like to introduce my old friend, Michelle, Dr. Michelle Moroz. That's what I want to hear. I want to be a doctor. But a doctor in leadership.
Are the okay. Is that do you have the action steps already plotted out, or that's something in the future?
I have the action steps plotted out, but here's my deal. I can't be in college at the same time as my daughters right now. College is kind of pricey. So I have to wait till at least one of them graduates from college, and then I can start. So I have started, but I have to figure out what my thesis statement will be. So I'm still working on it, but it will happen.
Excellent. You have two daughters. What is your vision? What legacy do you want to leave now and as you go on for your daughters and with your daughters?
Honestly, I could die today. The legacy I wanted to leave with them is already in them. They love people, they care, they're generous, they will lift up anyone that needs it. They are the epitome of what I've always wanted my children to have, to be in a life that was better than mine, even though mine was pretty good. But I wanted them to be good people who care about the future, and they are. And they are themselves. They embody who they are, their talents. They're immensely talented artists and speakers and math and technology. Oh, my oldest one's really techie. But they've embodied who they are. And I think that's all I really wanted them, to be happy with who they are, uniquely them, and to embrace the gifts that they have. It's honestly the same thing I hope for every client I have, every person who's ever been in an audience with me, to encourage them to basically to be who they want to be. What their God-given talent is. Bring it out. Yeah.
Les Stubing has a request. He wants to know a little bit about your experience on the Story Project.
The Story Project of Colorado Springs is run by Miss Sharon S. Friedman. And Story Project, she started as a project to collect personal stories of people in the Colorado area. And I've done this 4 times, I believe. So the first story I did, I mean, if anyone ever wants to see it, it's on my website. But it's called The Rice Pilaf. And that's a story about my mother. I have so many stories. If I go on about that, we'll never, ever end the show. But the Story Project is an amazing thing because it was one of the things of my fears. I wanted to be a public speaker, but I was afraid to step onto a big stage. Story Project put me on a stage. Not only did it put you on a stage, but it played live on National Public Radio for Colorado. Okay? So you had a radio audience and a live audience. Nothing puts you in speaker mode faster than a mic in front of you, bright lights on you, and knowing that people are hearing you live over a radio. It happens, I think, they do it every Friday night here in Colorado, the first Friday of every month. But look it up on Facebook. It's called The Story Project. It's pretty fun.
I will definitely do that. That's fantastic. Some feedback coming. Okay.
Oh, it's a second Friday. Second Friday.
Okay. Les has got well, anything else you'd like to share with us? I believe we covered a whole lot. Anything else you'd like to share with the audience in regards to what's Michelle's next move? Michelle's
next move is I'm speaking at the Educating Children of Color Summit this January 14th. Huge. Children are a big soft spot for me. They are our future. You know that song, I believe the children are our future. I believe that. And with the Educating Children of Color Summit, they bring in children from all parts of Colorado. And we break out in sessions and teach them and show them that, there's more to life than, you can aspire for far more than what you could ever imagine. And I'm doing that next. But if you want to know more about me, my website, michellemarasse.com. I tend to keep up with my schedule. Lately, not so much, but I tend to. Next is book tour. And I'm part of the 1 Mile High Speakers group. And, oh, thank you. And I go out on keynote speeches. So I go out and do keynotes about, work-life balance based off of my book and whatever else they want me to keynote about that works with their company or their organization. I don't tend to stop.
You admit, I understand that, and I realize that. You had mentioned your soft spot for children. In light of what's been going on in the last week or two in America, what are your concerns for children in your country at this present time?
My concerns, children don't realize, and that's why I get frustrated. Adults know that everything happens in cycles. There are good times, there are bad times. There are good times, there are bad times. They never last. And although they're afraid in our country, our children right now are afraid, a lot of them are, what my message to them is, don't be afraid. It's each individual in this world. We care. And if you care, show that you care. It's all about a circle of influence. If you're afraid bad things are going to happen, don't let them happen around you. Push out, be the positive force of energy in whatever environment you're in. Be the good, because good begets good. Bad will beget bad. So don't push out the negative. Push out only positive, and be the most positive influence in your sphere that you can be. It will be okay. Influence from your world out. And as you do that, it reflects on each person that's around you, and each person does the same thing, and we have nothing to worry about. We'll be okay. This too shall pass. Because if you worry about tomorrow, you'll never get out of bed. And as I told my daughter the other day, do you know what you're eating do you know what you're eating at lunch tomorrow? She says, no. I said, well, then don't worry about tomorrow. It will happen as it happens, and you control what you can control. My favorite quote is, there are things that are in your control, things that are in their control, and things that are in God's control. Decide which one is yours and step back.
Wow. Powerful. I think those are great words to leave off on. Michelle, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule, taking time out of your professional schedule, your family schedule. Thanks for taking the time before we went live for the last few weeks of us coordinating this, doing the testing. It came out absolutely outstanding. You rock the house. I'd like to say thank you to all your friends, Les, Bob, Margaret. I hope I don't leave anybody out, but I think I got the ones that communicated via the chat. Also, the lady that was sitting beside you. Thank you so much to her also. You've given the contact information again. It's michellemarasse.com. I'm Dr. Vibe. I'm the host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show. I'm the host of Epic Conversations, and I only do Epic Conversations, as you just witnessed. Also, this is the place for Epic Conversations. If you want to touch base with me, it's a website, www.drvibeshow, Twitter at drvibeshow, and also you can email me, dr.vibe@the.drvibeshow. As always, I like to say, you're blessed and highly favored. You're a made for miracles, and you're a solution for someone's problem. God bless. Peace be well. Keep the faith. Thank you so much, Bob. Thank you for staying through the whole thing. I really appreciate that. I love when people come on and stay for the whole thing. Excellent. And like I like to say, sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Michelle, thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Thank you. Right back at you, Margaret. Thank you for being an inspiring for our day also. Thank you so much. God bless. Peace be well and keep the faith.